know there's a lot of noise out there about the NAR ruling and realtor commissions and how's all that going to impact anyone. And if you got questions about that, I want you to get those answers. And I want you to get them from me because, not surprisingly, not shockingly in any way, the news isn't really delivering the news. And I don't care which side of any political spectrum you're on. Newspapers were started as vehicles to sell advertising. That's, they couldn't give away their advertising flyers, so they started putting news on them, and then there you go. Now you got newspapers. So it's all clicks, it's all eyeballs, none of it's accurate. Okay, so a couple things, just the immediate about it is the only thing that's changing is the way realtors are allowed to present the amount a seller is willing to pay to bring a buyer. Okay. First of all, let's just go back. Unless the DOJ approves this, none of this matters because the DOJ hasn't said this is a go. But assuming the DOJ says this is a go, and there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. But if they said it was a go, this plea deal means realtors can no longer display on the multiple listing service how much a seller is willing to contribute to a buyer's agent to pay for someone to bring a buyer. Okay. They can't say it on the MLS. They can say it on the broker's website. They can say it other places. And that 6% has always been negotiable. If we've worked together, you know this because we talked about it. And that's sort of the problem is that, the National Association of Realtors has a unbelievably low bar for a profession. It's the least professional profession I've ever seen. I mean, the training for it is ridiculous. It's absurd. In any state in the country, it takes less than 100 hours and about $2,000, and you can get a real estate license. And the testing is the least useful testing I've ever seen in my life. None of it matters. None of it. So they're not training people in a real way to advocate on behalf of their clients. They're really not, and they never have been. So things are out there like, oh, you're a buyer, you're not paying either side. The seller is going to pay for your commission, which is blatantly not true. The truth is buyers pay for both sides of the commission. I mean, any way you want to look at it, if the seller's willing to contribute it, that's nice. But the buyer, if they're going to include it in the price of the house, if the house is a $500,000 house, the buyer writes a check every month based on $500,000. Every month they write that. What the seller did with that money is neither here nor there. The buyer is paying for it. That the seller said, okay, I'm going to pay some to the government in taxes. I'm going to pay some to my agent. I'm going to pay some to the agent that brought it. The buyer's paying all of that. So it's a little bit, the whole thing gets messy. And it gets messy because human beings have this tendency to not ask questions about in two categories mostly. And I put this in, I've written several books about this because it's such a big deal to me that people don't ask questions when they think they know the answer. So if you already think you know, so you read something on CNN or on Fox or whatever you read, and now you think you know something. So you're not going to ask questions about it because you think you know it, or you think you're supposed to know it. Like somehow I'm supposed to know about cars because I'm a guy and my wife doesn't have that cultural burden on her. So if something happens with the car, right, she's going to ask all kinds of questions that I might not because I'd be embarrassed. Okay. That's actually a real example. That's actually happened to me. So we don't ask questions in those cases, and that's a problem. And it's a problem for me. So I want you to know it's a problem for me because I think buying a house or selling a house, it should be done as slowly and as thoughtfully as possible. And any kind of end result out of this ruling, this plea bargain, this deal, is likely to push buyers' agents out of the equation. It certainly has the potential to do that. And that would be madness. That is so anti-consumer, it's shocking to me. To make a buyer use the representative of the person who's already got a fiduciary responsibility to the seller, and now the buyer has to, with no fiduciary representative for them, use that agent, or to think that it's a good idea to do this through a website or to get your loan from Rocket Mortgage, all of those things that are designed to speed up the transaction in the name of transparency and lower is madness. This is the most expensive thing you're ever going to buy. I don't care what price bracket you're in, wherever you're buying, your house is the most expensive thing you bought. And it's the most legally complex. You can't turn it back. I just bought a laptop for my kid on Amazon, and I read the return policy because I'm not going to spend that much money. It's whatever it was, $600-700. I'm not going to spend that much money and not be able to return it. Well, you buy a house, you don't get to return it. $500,000, $1 million house, but you're going to do that online or through Redfin, through a discount broker. That's madness. I think, and you do it once every 10 years. So the whole process changes and the entire landscape in which you're transacting changes. So it's madness to me, anything that speeds up the process, disintermediates your advocates, someone having your back, anything like that, or that it muddies the water with nonsense information about how commissions were 6%. They were always negotiable. And they always, I don't know that they always will be. I can't tell the future, but they've always been negotiable. So I don't appreciate any of that. So, I wanted you to know that given we're talking, right, you got an advocate over here. And I will do, look, there are definitely faster and cheaper people to use than me. There just are. There's faster ways to work and there's cheaper ways to work. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to make sure we go slow. I'm going to make sure we go thorough. I'm going to make sure we go deep. I'm going to make sure you are comfortable with every decision you make. I'm going to make sure you know that certainty, that what did Voltaire say? That uncertainty is an uncomfortable proposition, but certainty is an absurd one. That we can't make the perfect choice. Or the reality is every choice we make is the perfect choice. And it will lead us to our next choice. And we're going to move together mindfully, aware that every step leads to the next step. Definitely people that will work with you faster and care less. But if you got questions about this, because really every situation is different. If you got questions about your particular situation, let me know. Whether we work together, you've worked with someone else, or you have some. If I can work with you, I absolutely will talk to you, okay? Unless you're signed with another agent. If you have a written agreement with another agent, I can't work with you. So, but if you just have questions, you're not wasting my time. Apparently, as you might be able to tell, I like talking about this. I like taking care of people when it comes to the most expensive, most complex, least transacted, most emotionally impactful transaction of their life. I find it an honor when people trust me enough to talk to me about it. So let me know what questions you have. But that's a deal with the NAR ruling and how you could move forward working with somebody as an advocate. Okay? Let me know what questions you have, and I'll talk to you later.